Hello everyone and welcome back! In this lesson we're going to continue our deep dive into Firestore security rules. In this lesson we're going to focus on understanding how security rules work exactly. We are going to answer common questions such as, for example, does the order of the rules matter? What happens if multiple rules match a request, etc. Let's then switch to our console and start talking about path variables. So path variables in Firestore security rules are these variables here on the match path of each rule section that are surrounded by curly braces. So for example, here database is a path variable and course ID is a path variable. Notice that we don't have to use necessarily path variables in our rules declaration. There could be specific use cases where we would like to target a specific document. Let's give an example. We're going to switch here to our database tab and we're going to select here a course. Let's take the serverless Angular with Firebase course and we're going to copy this course ID that we have available here on the course path. Taking this ID, we could use it to specify here a rule that targets only that particular course and nothing more. And the rule would look something like this. I'm going to copy here this match block and I'm going to take here the course identifier and I'm going to replace it here on top of the course variable. Let's say that this course would be read only, but we would also allow write operations to this particular document. This is an unusual use case, but if we need it, it's supported by this syntax. So here we are using the specific identifier of a document. Now we would like to try this rule out. In order to do so, we could use our application for that, but as we are developing here the Firestore security rules, it would be great to have a way of testing them here from the console. And we do have such a mechanism. We have the simulator here on the bottom of the screen. If we click on this icon, we are going to open our simulator. Let's then simulate a retrieval operation where we are trying to retrieve this particular course. We are going to fill in here the path to our course. So the path will be /courses and then / and the course identifier. And we even have here other options available for simulating a request, such as marking the user as authenticated. We're going to be using this option further on in this course. Right now, we want to make sure that this course here is accessible for read operations, even for unauthenticated users. So we are going to leave this slider in the off position. So if we now click here on run, this is going to simulate a request that tries to read this course. And we can see here via the message that indeed we would be able to read this document using this GET request. We see here what were the rules that allowed this request read to go through via this green checkbox here. So we have here two rules in our set of rules that would grant read access to this document. Now let's try something else. Let's try to do a write operation. We're going to do here an update of the existing course document. We're going to build here our new updated document, and let's say that we would like to change the sequence number of this document. This sequence number field, as we have seen, is a number, and let's say that instead of the value 0, we would like to set this to 10, for example. Let's then try to run this request and see what happens with the simulator. So this time around, we can see that the simulated write was allowed. So this was allowed because we have here a matching condition that allows write operations to this particular course document and no other. As we can see, the request went through successfully, even though we had here a rule that would deny this request to go through. So as we can see, if we have at least one security rule that allows the request to go through, then the request will go through. We only need one matching rule to allow the request. Even if we have several failing rules, that will not matter. All that it takes is one allow condition to be true for the request to be allowed. Let's now see what happens if we try to update another course other than this one. Let's head over to our database console and let's select here another course identifier. We are then going to use this identifier here in our simulator path. Let's then try to update this course. So this time around, we are going to see that the request was denied. And this happened because we used here a different course with an identifier different than this one. Notice that it starts in 4GS, so it's a completely different identifier. So there was no match with this particular set of rules. we did have a match here with this set of rules using this path variable, but in this case the write access was denied. Let's now talk about the order of the security rules. Let's go back here to the situation where we were updating this particular document. So if you remember, this update was indeed going through successfully. Now let's see what would happen if we would switch the order of the rules. So we are going to put this rule that was giving here a false value to this request. Let's switch around the order of the rules and see if that affects the outcome. We are going to hit publish. We are going to wait a second for the rules to propagate, and then we are going to run our request again. So as we can see, our simulated write went through again. So the order of the rules really has no influence in the outcome of the decision to accept the request or not. If there is at least one matching security rule that accepts the request, then the request is going to be accepted. Now let's refactor a bit our rules. We are going to be using a path variable for the first time. Notice that this matching block here is closely related to this one. There seems to be a bit of duplication going on, so we had to write here a completely new match block just to target this particular course. We can write something equivalent to these two sets of matching rules by using this path variable. So we are going to take this course ID and we are simply going to delete this block. Now what we want to do is we want to give write access only to the course with that particular ID. So we are going to allow the write only if the course ID, which is the value of this variable here, is equal to this particular course identifier. So with this, we have here a much simpler set of security rules that does the exact same thing as we had before. So if we run here our update modification, we're going to see that an update is allowed for this particular course, but if we select here another course from the list, we are going to be choosing this one that starts with 08. If we try to update this course, this time around the request is going to be denied. So again, we have the same situation as before. All courses are read-only except for this particular course which has read-write access. Let's now quickly summarize everything that we have learned in this lesson. So the security rules are expressed via a series of match blocks. The match block has a path that will match or not with the path of the incoming request. Inside the match block, we can either grant or deny a certain permission, such as read or write, to the request. We can do so by associating with a given permission type, such as for example write here, with a Boolean condition. So this part here of the rule needs to always return either true or false. On the path part, we have available these path variables that can be used here inside the security rule if condition. If there are multiple security rules that match a given incoming request, then only one of those rules needs to allow the request to go through in order for the request to be accepted. On the other hand, the order of the multiple match blocks does not matter. If there is one rule that allows the request to go through, then the request will go through independently of the position of that rule in the rules list. Let's now continue to dive deeper into security rules. We're going to learn about what types of permissions are available besides read and write. We are going to talk about nested match blocks and we are going to talk about wildcards.